pratishtita, mano me vachi pratishtitam, avir maheti, vedasya ma nishtaha, shrutam me ma prahasi, anena ditena oratran santatami, ritam varishyami, satyam varishyami, Tanmamavatu, Tadbhaktaramavatu, Avatu Mam, Avatu Bhaktaram. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. May my speech be one with my mind, and may my mind be one with my speech. O thou self-luminous Brahman, remove the veil of ignorance before me, that I may behold thy light. Do thou reveal unto me the spirit of the scriptures. May the truth of the scriptures be ever present to me. May I seek day and night to realize what I learned from the sages. May I speak the truth of Brahman. May I speak the truth. May it protect me. May it protect my teacher. Om peace, peace, peace be unto us all. Today we're celebrating Christmas with our Christmas program, and the topic today is the meaning of the Nativity. How is an avatar born? A divine incarnation. Swami Vivekananda explained it to us in his Los Angeles talk given in 1900. He said, and his talk's name was Christ the Messenger, the wave rises on the ocean and there is a hollow. Again, another wave rises, perhaps bigger than the former, to fall down again. Similarly, again to rise, driving onward. In the march of events, we notice the rise and fall, and we generally look towards the rise, forgetting the fall, but both are necessary. This wave depression is what rises to bring forth the advent of the avatar. Avatar comes from the Sanskrit roots ava, tree, one who crosses over. As Christ said, ye are from beneath, I am from above. Sri Krishna affirms in the Bhagavad Gita this rise and fall. In the 4th chapter of the Gita, verses 7 and 8, when goodness grows weak, when evil increases, I make myself a body. In every age, I come back to deliver the holy, to destroy the sin of the sinners, to establish righteousness. The story of the Nativity we first hear as children enchants us, and we retell it every Christmas, every Janmashtami, every Ramnavami. Sri Krishna was the son of Devaki and Vasudeva. He was born 5,000 years ago. Before civilization could rise as a wave and crest, there was an era of persecution during his time, chaos, civil freedoms were denied. Krishna's life was threatened by his uncle Kamsa, the self-proclaimed king of Mathura. Consequently, he ordered all children of Devaki and Vasudeva murdered to protect him from the prophecy of defeat he was to have. So in the dead of night, during a violent thunderstorm, the father of Vasudeva took baby Krishna across the Yamuna River to foster parents in Gokul, Nanda and Yashoda, where he was then raised. This Krishna legend is celebrated every Janmashtami by fasting, devotional songs, and night vigils until finally it's broken with feasting. Similarly, baby Jesus was born in Bethlehem under the Roman rule at the time of Herod the Great, king of Judea. Magi from the east came to Herod and asked him where they could find the king of the Jews, because they saw his prophetic star of Bethlehem. Herod's scribes and priests confirmed the Old Testament book of Micah forecast the Jewish Messiah, that it would be born in Bethlehem. Herod invited the wise men to return and report to him and where they found this King of the Jews, so he could secretly have him killed. The Magi went to Bethlehem, where they worshiped baby Jesus with gifts. And when the Magi departed, an angel warned Joseph in dream to take Jesus and Mary and flee to Egypt, because Herod intended to kill him in the massacre of the innocents. All male children, 2 years old and younger, were to be massacred. The Holy Family remained in Egypt until Herod's death. Then Joseph took them to Nazareth in Galilee for fear of Herod's son, who now ruled in Jerusalem. This legend is the magic of Christmas for every child as they open the windows of their Advent calendars, which retell the story of Jesus' birth. The Christmas Nativity is not about Jesus' teachings of the Beatitudes or the Sermon on the Mount. It's about the actual phenomenon of the divine incarnation. Christopher Isherwood, in his book Ramakrishna and His Disciples, wrote, "A phenomenon is often something extraordinary and mysterious, most of all to those best fitted to understand him. A phenomenon is always a fact, an object of experience. And we have this highest reading of the Absolute by Jesus. He said, not that any man has seen the Father, save he which is of God. He has seen the Father, meaning the Absolute." And you think, well, what about Nirvikalpa Samadhi, the highest Samadhi? Swami Brahmananda, who lived 6 days and nights in Nirvikalpa Samadhi, said Nirvikalpa is the beginning of religion. And here we have in Sri Ramakrishna's life recorded that he lived 6 months in Nirvikalpa Samadhi. So as Jesus said, in my Father's house are many mansions. Swami Saradananda, one of the direct disciples of Ramakrishna, wrote in Sri Ramakrishna, the Great Master, in the Vedic age, there were rishis that were discovered and known to be special seers, aptas, realized souls, adhikaras, teachers with authority, and prakriti lina purusha, free souls absorbed in prakriti. And all of these were recognized as teachers who established religion. The greatest of these Vedic rishis were regarded as the avatars in the Puranic age: Krishna, Rama, and so on, Buddha, Jesus, all of these. In the 6th and 7th century onward, rishis became classified according to their divine powers and special authority. But Kapila, the founder of the Samkhya system, one of the 6 systems of philosophy in Hinduism, also recognized them in Samkhya scriptures as Prakriti Lina. Now there are 2 categories of Prakriti Lina. There is the Ishvara, the Kalpa Niyamaka Ishvara, the rulers of a cycle, the cosmic personal God, eternally pure, illumined, free, the divine incarnation. And then there are those who accompany the avatar, the Ishvarakotis. And in the Ramakrishna incarnation, we read that there were 6 Ishvarakotis, ever-free souls: Vivekananda from the Ram 7 sages, Swami Brahmananda, playmate of Sri Krishna, Swami Premananda, Niranjanananda, Yogananda Purna. All of these were the Ishvarakotis in the Ramakrishna incarnation. In the Vedic age, from 1500 to 500 BCE, there was belief in the transformation of the great rishis into avatars. And in the Puranic age, 2nd century BCE, this seeded the faith in the avatar. This period seeded the faith in the avatar. We see the trajectory of Christ's 3 years of teachings over 2,000 years of time became synthesized into the mystic traditions of the desert fathers and mothers and singular luminaries such as St. Francis of Assisi, St. Clare, Julian of Norwich, St. Therese of Avila, Doctor of the Church, St. John of the Cross, Carmelite friar and priest, and so many more, until Catholicism gradually stagnated, and according to one very famous Trappist monk, Father Thomas Keating, had lost the inner experience of contemplation and instead had diverted its religion into outer forms of ritual. Now, Father Thomas Keating was a wonderful monk. He was a saint, a mystic. And I had the privilege of engaging in interreligious, interspiritual dialogue with him and other spiritual leaders at Snowmass. And he was the founder of the Snowmass conferences in the 1980s, which really helped to transform Catholicism. And so we see that then the world prepared for the next wave. Sri Ramakrishna and Eastern mysticism's contact with Christian monasticism reignited new vigor into the church, the Catholic Church. Father Thomas Keating said, when Vedanta teachers such as Vivekananda and Buddhist teachers arrived in the West and said, here is our method of attaining non-dual consciousness, what is yours? There was no answer. Very candid. Keating went on, why is Christ giving gifts to young Hindu and Buddhist meditators when we monastics who are praying and working so hard are getting nowhere? Now again, he was an exception. He was a genuine mystic. But see the honesty, the integrity of a Catholic father engaged in interspiritual dialogue. And this fomented a change in the Catholic Church. In the 1970s, Abbot Thomas Keating, along with Fathers Menninger and Basil Pennington of St. Joseph's Abbey in Spencer, Massachusetts, delved into the cloud of unknowing and St. John of the Cross and reawakened the Christian mantra practice, Christian contemplative tradition of centering prayer. Keating, it was time when the Catholic tradition changed more in 5 years than in 1,500 years. So we see with the advent of the Avatar and messengers of God, the rise and fall of great waves in the world's civilizations as religion moves from lower truth to higher truth. In the Christian tradition, it began with the Judeo-Christian God, a judge on a throne, rewarding good and evil, punishing evil. Then it became no longer a distant God, but an omnipresent God. Vivekananda explained, the soul of all souls. As my soul moves my body, even so is God the mover of my soul. Soul within soul. And ultimately, with the advent of Jesus, we have higher still to the self-realized interior God. In Christ's words, blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. How does the divine child appear to his devotees? In our Vedanta tradition, it's known as the Vatsalya attitude, one of 5 spiritual attitudes towards God. It's the motherly, fatherly love. God as the child, no element of fear. The Little Sisters of Jesus in their convent at Tre Fontaine in Rome is where I stayed on my way to a pilgrimage to India, and it was arranged, my stay, it was a cloister convent. It was arranged by Senior Swami of the order, Swami Brahmaprana, who knew one of the young nuns who worked in Varanasi. This convent was founded on Sister Magdalene's experience. She had a dream of baby Jesus. She picked him up and held him to her breast, and he entered into her heart. It was an inner experience, and it transformed her desire to make herself small, simple, joyful as a divine child. A divine child, after all, accepted the devotion of shepherds and kings. Magdalene's mystic experience shaped her entire spiritual attitude. Her passion was to be like common people and work alongside of them in menial labor, to be their friend without motive, without conversion. Christ's presence manifests to her in simple moments. For example, working alongside common people such as the persecuted Romanian gypsies, the Alaskan Eskimos, the American circus performers, desert nomads. She said a small child is able to be more audacious than a grown-up, asking whatever she wants from her father, asking until she gets it. This love, guileless, fearless, champions all obstacles. It's fascinating to note that many Christian mystics who experienced the vision of baby Jesus also felt as Magdalene, mystically empowered by holding the divine child against their heart, the seat of consciousness recognized in Eastern and Western mystic traditions. For example, Saint Faustina Kowalska, who lived from 1905 to 1938, experienced the infant Jesus a number of times. Once she wrote, "I saw the infant Jesus near my kneeler. He appeared to be about 1 year old, and he asked me to take him in my arms. When I did, he cuddled up close to my bosom and said, 'It is good for me to be close to your heart, because I want to teach you spiritual childhood. I want you to be very little, because when you are little, I carry you close to my heart, just as you are holding me close to your heart right now.'" On Christmas Eve, December 24th, 1937, Saint Faustina wrote, "When I arrived at midnight mass, from the very beginning, I steeped myself in deep recollection, during which time I saw the stable of Bethlehem filled with great radiance. The Blessed Virgin, all lost in the deepest of love, was wrapping Jesus in swaddling clothes, but Saint Joseph was still asleep. Only after the Mother of God put Jesus in the manger did the light of God awaken Joseph, who also prayed. But after a while, I was left alone with the infant Jesus, who stretched out his little hands to me, and I understood that I was to take him in my arms. Jesus pressed his head against my heart and gave me to know by his profound gaze how good he found it to be next to my heart." In the Ramakrishna incarnation, Gopalama gives us further insight into the vision of the divine child. She came to Sri Ramakrishna in 1884 as a widow, and she experienced Sri Ramakrishna as Gopala, the baby Krishna, the divine child. Though Sri Ramakrishna's disciples saw her at 60, her face beamed like that of a young girl. Gopalama felt drawn to Sri Ramakrishna, though she didn't know why, and she would walk to Dakshineshwar with cooked food for him. Her spiritual routine was austere. She arose at 2 a.m., repeated japa from 3 to 8 or 3 to 9. She performed worship, then after her lunch, she rested, and again she performed japa until arati, then resumed japa until late evening, and finally drank milk, then slept for several hours. One morning at 3 a.m., she started her japa and noticed Sri Ramakrishna's form by her side in her little hut, his right fist clenched. How did he get here, she wondered. Sri Ramakrishna smiled sweetly. I gathered my courage and grasped his left hand, she said, and Sri Ramakrishna's form disappeared. In its place appeared the real Gopala, a large baby of 10 months old. His beauty and appearance beggars description. He crawled toward me and raising one hand said, "Mother, give me butter." I was overwhelmed and bewildered by this amazing experience. I could not perform japa at all, she said. Gopala sat on my lap, snatched away my rosary, jumped on my shoulders, and crawled around the room. At daybreak, I rushed to Dakshineshwar on foot, like a crazy woman. The master immediately entered into an ecstatic mood. The spiritual effects of this, we see how a murti, an image of God, in this case, Sri Ramakrishna's form, manifests the mood of the divine child. Gopalama realized her Gopala was Sri Ramakrishna. Gopalama experienced the child, the naughty Gopala, demanding and playing. She had 2 months of unceasing vision, and Sri Ramakrishna told her, it is no longer necessary for you to perform japa. Why? She was on a very high rung on the spiritual ladder. Sri Ramakrishna explained, the more you advance toward God, the less you will see of his glories and grandeur. The aspirant at first has a vision of the goddess with 10 arms. There is a great display of power in that image, referring to Durga. The next vision is that of the deity with 2 arms. Then, as the aspirant has a vision of Gopala, in which there is no trace of power, it is the form of a tender child. The aspirant then sees only light. No wonder Christ's nativity draws children into its vortex and awakens our own adult child mind deep within. A mind which sees a world with our spiritual imagination, as spiritually alive. Saint Teresa of Avila, who lived from 1515 to 1582, she was Saint Teresa of Jesus. She always traveled with her statue of the infant Jesus when she founded new convents. One day, as Teresa of Avila was coming down the steps of her convent, she saw a beautiful young boy. The child asked her, "Who are you?" And Teresa answered, "I am Teresa of Jesus." "And who are you?" The child answered, "I am Jesus of Teresa," and disappeared. In other words, the divine child was not an exterior form of God. He belonged to Teresa. As Swami Vivekananda explained, he was God, the mover of her soul, the soul within her soul. Jesus appeared to her many times later, but mostly as the suffering Jesus, to inspire her to sacrifice herself in order to transform those who came in contact with her. St. Francis of Assisi lived from 1182 to 1226. He relived the Leela, the divine play of the divine birth. St. Francis was an ecstatic mystic. He made a pilgrimage to the Holy Land in 1219, where he had his first vision of baby Jesus. With 4 brother monks, he visited the crib in Bethlehem and spent Christmas night in the grotto where Christ was born. In a deep state of bhava, Francis relived the birth of Christ. A few years later, on Christmas Eve, in the town of Greccio, Italy, Francis built a replica of this manger scene, and then experienced a second vision in which he held the infant Jesus in his arms. So in conclusion, whether a man or a woman, reliving the Nativity is a profound spiritual setting. We do it to some degree every Christmas as children, and that creates deep samskaras, tendencies in the mind that prevail long after we reach adulthood. Then as we take up spiritual life, try to meditate on the avatar and relive his divine Leela, whether Christ, Buddha, Krishna, Sri Ramakrishna. We reawaken the powerful spiritual vrittis, thought waves, that were set there in our youth when the mind's neural connections were still so strong. Strong enough to rise throughout our life, wash and purify the mind, which then begins to reflect the heart, our seat of our consciousness. When the mind is wiped clean with pure thoughts, then it is that we see God. As the German mystic, Angelus Silesius, who lived from 1624 to 1677, said, "Not ever can be known in God. One and alone is he. To know him, knower must become one with known. Though Christ 1,000 times in Bethlehem be born, and not within thyself, thy soul will be forlorn." So let us try then each day to turn our child's gaze within, to seek the interior Jesus, the eternal Krishna, the realm of Ramakrishna and the Divine Mother, the soul of our souls, our true home. As Christ the Messenger said, "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God." We too can purify our hearts and see God in this very life.